Coming up next, you'll learn how to change a flat bicycle tire right in your living room. We'll take a look at winter riding gear, and I'll even go through a step-by-step demonstration on how to keep your bikes clean. All that and more right here on Broken Spokes. Hey folks, welcome to Broken Spokes, a program designed to promote do-it-yourself maintenance. My bikes are my mode of transportation all year round, and knowing how to fix some basic things that can naturally go wrong has saved me money, time, and stress. Since getting a flat tire usually happens while you're out on a ride, it's best to ride prepared, otherwise you'll end up having to walk your bike home, to a bike shop, or call for a ride. All you need are tire levers, a new tube, and a pump to inflate. As you can see here, my bike is flipped upside down. I prefer to work this way so that I can easily access all parts of my bike without having it roll away. So the first thing you want to do when you change a tire is you want to disengage your brake. So some bikes are different, but my bike has a really simple release for the brake. So I'm just gonna disconnect it right here. And I also have a quick release wheel. So I'm just gonna pull this lever here and loosen it up. So that I can grab my wheel out. So most times when you get a flat tire, your tire will deflate and there won't be any air in it left. But sometimes you might have to actually physically deflate it so that you can actually get it out. So something that I do, you can basically use any tool that is has a pointed end. You just take it into your valve and you just push the air out. It's pretty simple. So these two tools here are tire levers, and they're gonna help you get your wheel out of the rim. And so what you wanna do is find a place on the rim, but not where the valve is, and you're gonna stick it in under here so that you can gain some leverage. A lot of people like to use this curve here and stick it onto a spoke so that it keeps it in place. So the next thing you're gonna do is use the lever to get into another spot on the rim. And basically what you're gonna wanna do is get this whole side of the tire out of the rim. So sometimes it's easy to slide it, and sometimes you have to work and enter it at different points. If you see a bike mechanic or a bike expert do this, they will make it look very easy and make it go very quickly. And sometimes that's possible, but sometimes you have to work for it. If you've gone a couple months without having changed your tire, this will be harder because it'll be a little bit more nestled into the rim, but this came out pretty easily. So the next thing you want to do, once you have this side of the tube or the tire out, is you can pull your punctured tube out. I always like to pull out everything before I take out the valve part. Some people like to leave the whole tire on when they replace the tube, but I like to take it off just so I can see what I'm working with. And so you want to gently take this valve out of here. Sometimes you got to wiggle it a little bit. And this is the tube. So a lot of people, what they'll do is they will patch their tubes. Usually what you can do is look around and try to find where the puncture hole is. Sometimes it's an actual thing that punctures the wheel, like a piece of glass or a nail, but sometimes you just hit a pothole or a crack in the road and there's not really any evidence of what was actually puncturing your tube. But for our purposes today, we're going to replace the tube completely. So I like to take this whole tire off. And it's way easier to take off the second side. So I'm just going to set this rim down for a moment. And what I like to do is, like I was saying before, sometimes there's a piece of glass or a nail or something sharp inside of your tire, and you don't ever want to put your tube inside of it again if you haven't checked to make sure that there's nothing inside. So I always kind of turn the tube or the tire inside out and kind of run my finger really gently in it and see if there's anything that's in there. Many times I find like pieces of broken glass, and it would not be good to put another new tube in there and have it just puncture that one. So this is looking pretty good. So what we can do is grab your new tube. And it's way easier to work with when you have it slightly blown up. That way it's not flat, you just want to make it round, but you don't want to make it too blown up because otherwise it won't fit back inside the rim. A lot of people have handheld pumps that they can keep in their backpack while they're riding. That's a really convenient thing to have. That way you don't have to go to a bike shop and you don't have to go somewhere that has it. You can just do everything yourself. But for this purpose, because we're at home, I'm just going to use this nice big pump. Kind of gets things done quicker. So like I said, I just blow it up a little bit so that you have some room to work with. And I'll just gently put it back inside the tube. And you really want to be careful when you do this because the whole point is to replace the tube. And they are fragile, so just do things with care. And it's more important to take your time and do a good job on it because you'd hate to have to replace your replaced tube. So I just kind of stick it in. All right, and then we can go to be putting it back on the rim. This part tends to be a little tricky, especially if you have really tight fitted tires, because you want them to be tight, but that also makes it a little bit more difficult to get them on. So I always locate the hole where the valve goes, and I stick the valve in very gently because this is a part of the valve that can also puncture, and that's a very, very common place for tubes to actually puncture is when people are changing them. Sometimes it'll pinch, and then you'll have to start the process all over again. So I don't pull it all the way through right away, but just find the hole. So then I'm gonna work and try to get one side of the tire back in. It can be a little difficult, so if you need to go around a couple times and figure it out, that's totally fine. Sometimes it helps to lay it down a little bit so that you have a surface to work with. And the end goal, obviously, is to have both sides of the tire inside of the rim. You can do a lot of this manually while it's loose enough, but when it starts getting tighter, you're gonna need your tire levers again. So I'm just gonna work. I have one side in and I'm working on the second side right now. And you wanna be careful that your new tube is not getting pinched between the rim and the tire. So you always wanna keep looking and making sure that it's actually inside and not sticking out the side. Because when you go to blow it up again, it will pop. All right, so it's getting kind of tight. So I'm going to take my tire lever and I am going to push this back in here. You may have to do it a couple times. And as it gets in there more, it gets tighter and tighter. Okay, so it's all in now. And so you just want to give it a once over. Make sure that the tube is not sticking out in any areas. And it doesn't look like it is on this side. So we'll go on this side and check it out. Looks pretty good. So the next thing I like to do before I inflate it is to put it back on my bike. And I have a quick release, so I like to make sure that the quick release is on the same side, and it is not, so I will turn it back around. And then just tighten up the wheel nice and tight. And then we can go ahead and pump our tire up. A lot of the bikes will say what PSI to pump it up to right on the side. If you don't know, you can always just take a look and it'll tell you. So I'm gonna give mine a pump. And I'm just gonna pull my valve out a little bit because I didn't do that the first time around. Sometimes you gotta pull it kind of hard. Starting to catch air. So when I'm riding, I ride to work mostly, and if I'm running errands, I will take my bike. Things that I always like to have on me are tubes, just in case something like this happens. A little handheld pump, which I don't have with me today. I have a backlight and a front light. These are really nice to just always have on your bike in case you get caught somewhere later than you expect and you end up riding in the dark. Another thing I like to have is this multi-purpose tool. It has all kinds of Allen wrench sizes on it. It has a Phillips head screwdriver, a flathead screwdriver, and it's just like really convenient to have. I honestly use it probably a few times every week and not always for bike issues. Sometimes I just have them for something else. That's really nice to have. I always carry my lock with me. You never know if you're gonna need to stop somewhere, so it's always great to have a lock with you. And last but not least, I always have a helmet on because that's just something that it's a precaution that you need to take when you're out there riding. So my bike is at the PSI that I want it to. So I'm gonna take this off. And then put the little cap back on. So that's almost the whole process. The last thing that you wanna do is put the brake back on. It's very important that you remember this step. Otherwise, your bike won't be able to stop. All right, and you give it a spin, make sure that it's not rubbing, make sure that it's spinning. And yeah, that should do it for the bike tire change. Like anything else, the more you practice replacing your tube, the easier it'll become. The most common flat tire is known as a pinch flat, which occurs when your tire is underinflated. So regularly checking the air pressure before a ride can help avoid getting a flat. Your tires are also more susceptible to punctures in the winter because of road conditions. Although riding your bike in the winter can seem intimidating, I assure you that with the proper gear and bike, anyone can do it. I put together a short segment going through what I wear to keep myself warm and safe. Check it out. Hey folks, just want to talk a little bit about winter biking. If you're from Wisconsin, you know that it's pretty cold around here, and sometimes we find it hard to get outside and be active and get exercise. If you're a person who likes biking in the summer, I would definitely encourage you to give winter biking a try. There's a lot of precautions that you need to take, and one of those happens to be dressing appropriately. These are all my clothes here that I wear on my bike, and we can go through all the pieces one by one. To start out, I have like a base layer of leggings and like a shirt, an undershirt under here, followed by a fleece shirt with a zipper that I can zip all the way up so my neck gets covered. And then on really cold days, I wear 2 pairs of wool socks. For gloves, I usually wear 2 layers on really cold days. These little fleece liners are really nice for making sure that the warmth that my hand is producing stays inside of my hands. And on top of them, I wear these big mittens. They are filled with down, and they're also waterproof, so they keep the warmth inside of my hands and they keep moisture out. Sometimes I can get away with just wearing these leggings as my layer on my legs, but on really cold days, I wear these really cool snow pants. They're pretty lightweight, but they're a really awesome wind barrier so that it keeps my warmth in and then it keeps the wind out. And then I have this really nice rain jacket that's super light. I also wear it in the summer when it's raining. But it's just kind of my outer protective shell, protecting me from the wind and the snow and the rain and the sleet. And then I wear these big honking boots. They're pretty well insulated and they're very waterproof. And they're nice because I can kind of move my feet around inside the boots. I make sure to get them a size bigger because if your feet are constricted, they get colder. So if you're able to move your feet better, your feet are gonna stay warmer, and my hands and feet are definitely the coldest things on a bike. And then I guess the last thing I wear is my helmet. This is another layer of warmth, but it's also protection from the ice and the snow and the cars and just the chaos that is winter driving. I have a different bike for the winter and the summer. In the summer, I ride a road bike with very thin tires, and I can kind of just cruise. It's meant for speed and to be sleek. And then in the winter, I don't use studded tires or anything, but I use kind of a hybrid between a mountain bike and a road bike. So it's still a little streamlined, but the tires are meant for a tougher terrain, so they have better traction and they are more stable on things that are ice and potentially slippery. So that being said, winter biking is definitely an awesome way to get outside and enjoy the winter elements and also staying active and fit. It definitely takes some planning and some foresight, like having the proper equipment and the proper gear so that you can stay warm and be safe. But it's also like such a rewarding and empowering experience that I really encourage people who are interested to get out there and try it. And if you have questions or concerns, there are a lot of people out there that are really into winter biking or also getting into it. So there's lots of people and resources that you can talk to and try to get excited about it. But yeah, definitely encourage people to get out there and give it a try. Keeping your bike clean is also really crucial in maintaining its performance. Not to mention, it'll last longer and look better. No matter what kind of bike you ride, they all get dirty, especially mountain bikes riding in rough terrain. My winter bike definitely needs a good clean every couple days. Something that I like to do on a daily basis after I have a rough, messy ride is I like to take a big 5-gallon bucket and fill it with warm water. No soap or anything, but usually when I get home, there's tons of ice caked on my chains and it's all in between the pedals and on the wheels and in between the spokes. And those components are the most crucial part of your bike. It's what keeps it rolling. And once those start to corrode and rust, you're kind of out of luck. So I just like to take the bucket with water and just dump it all over everything. I have the bike the regular way up. and I just melt all the ice just to get it out so that it doesn't sit on the chain. And then sometimes if I'm feeling really ambitious, I will take a towel and I'll wipe all the moisture off, and then I'll put just like an all-purpose lubricant on the chain and in some of the other components like the brakes and in any of the shifters, because those parts really just need to be clean. And one season of riding can, if you don't take care of your bike, you can really have to replace everything, and that can get pretty expensive. One other thing that I don't do every day, but it's something that is really helpful, because in the winter I tend to lubricate my bike more often than I do in the summer, just because it needs to be cleaned more. So I take a flathead screwdriver, and in all these little gears back here, there's tons of grease and tons of salt, and the salt really just is really bad for your bike. So I like to just run a screwdriver over the gears, and you can see all the grease and the salt, and there's little stones and gravel that's in there. I mean, you can see how much there is. And that's really good for just getting all of the particulate matter off of your chain. But once you take this off, you're also taking off a bunch of grease, so you want to replace it with some more lubricant, and that's very easy. You just take this, and I'm not gonna do it here, but you just basically pour it on top of the chain and just run it through all the gears and make sure that they're all clean. Another thing I like to do with that is take a rag and just hold it around the chain and get all the gunk off. The salt is something that's really bad. If you ride bikes or if you ride your car, you know that there's tons of salt everywhere. All the roads are salted, and that can really do a lot of wear and tear to your bike. But there'll also be a lot of cleaning to do for aesthetic purposes, and that's just like to clean off your frame. It's not only for aesthetic, but it's for functionality too. So I like to just every couple weeks, I don't necessarily do like a full frame wipe down every day, but it's really helpful to just kind of get all the stuff off. Like there's a huge pile of salt right here, and it's just nice to get that off of there, get in between all the crevices. Sometimes it helps to flip your bike upside down because you can see that there's holes that you don't really see from the top. And yeah, just getting all those nooks and crannies. Try to clean it off. If you ever have any questions about cleaning your bike, or if you want to learn more about changing a tire, for instance, or if you want to learn how to adjust your brakes, or just basic know-how about bikes, there are so many bike shops at least in Milwaukee and in lots of other cities that offer free do-it-yourself classes. And most people are really, really excited to teach people how to clean their own bikes and how to take care of their own bikes, because it's definitely a culture that's growing. And so if you have a favorite bike shop that you go to and you'd be interested in learning something, there's a lot of other people that are also interested, and it's a place to go where you can hang out with other people that don't really know much about bikes, and you can help each other learn. It's a really, really, really empowering experience. I definitely recommend going to some of those classes. A lot of places have like certain DIY nights that you can come in, bring your bike, they teach you how to do what you need to do, and it's definitely a really, really cool resource to have. So in the winter, obviously, you're gonna wanna ride a bike that has a little bit more weight to it, something that can handle like slipperiness and ice and snow and slush and sleet. So mountain bikes are a really good way to go. And in the summer, there's all kinds of other bikes that you can ride, road bikes, hybrid bikes, and yep, there are many different types of bikes for different types of riding. So I feel strongly about there being a style for everyone. from mountain biking to BMX and even bike polo. Next, we get a self-perspective look at how some people ride their bikes. I hope you feel encouraged to get to know your bike and make necessary adjustments when needed. Take advantage of the many bike shops that offer one-time maintenance classes in your area and try a new biking sport. Remember to always wear your helmets and practice safe riding, but most importantly, have fun. Thanks everyone. Take care.